Hello, merry meet. First let me say happy Valentine to everyone. And this is going to be a video response to, I think the way the name is to be pronounced is slcwitchboi, I think. And this is a video response to his video, how not to set up an altar. And first let me say, I did really like your video. Basically what the video is about, and I'll put a link to the original video down there. Basically what the video is about is a sort of protest against the typical... It's been very popular lately to have tutorial videos about how to do an altar. And basically with him saying you can do it whatever way you want, because magic is very individual. And yes, to a certain degree I definitely agree. And I'm a chaot. I definitely think magic is individual, and that there is no hard and fast set rule, this is how you have to do it. It's like I told someone once that if magic works for you, if you have a stinky sock and you swing it over your head while you sing Amazing Grace, and that works for you when doing magic, do it. The magic police isn't coming to arrest you if you do it in an unusual way. However, I also think it's wise to know the basics. Basically, what such tutorials is there for is not so much saying this is the only way to do it. Because of course some people say this is the only way to do it because that's within their tradition, they might not have read anything else, or they are convinced that it's one hard, fast, true, only way to do it. But for most part, when you do tutorials, it's not about pressing an only way to do it, but saying this is one way to do it that works. Because it's like with baking. If you have absolutely no idea how to bake, it's a big mystery to you. How do you combine flour and sugar and all of this and get a cake? Then it doesn't really work to say, yeah, you can basically do whatever you want and have a cake of it. When you know the basics, when you know all these basics, you can combine, you can find the right method for you, you can do all of sort of crazy shit. But before you know these basics, it's very useful to have a recipe and follow that. It's like my old teacher said, always start following the basics and then you can experiment. Basically learn the basics first. And it's the same with, for example, music. I know quite a few people who are extremely good at playing it by ear. They hear a melody and they can repeat it on a guitar, for example, but without knowing how to read the notes. That's the word in English, isn't it? Yeah, notes. Without being able to read notes, they can't pick up a music book and learn more from it. They'll be very restricted. So that learning some basics is a very good idea. And there are some basic altar setups for various traditions of what you want to do. And doing a tutorial on those so that you can actually learn those basics might help many people get going. Another thing is that it can often be difficult knowing where to start. So you don't really know what sort of altar you want to have. I mean, magic is a huge topic and it's very easy to get lost. And then following a video that says you can do it this way, this way, this way, and this way, it's a good way to get started. It's like when I started doing croquet not too long ago, and I'm still there that I watch instruction videos and I sit there and follow those to the letter, or I'll just have a ball of yarn. While a friend of mine who's really good at croquet, she is freehanding it left and right. And that's what I mean with knowing where to start. So yeah, I agree with you. Magic isn't hard and fast, it's very individual. And even you mentioned elements, where elements are placed, like you say, you do them in a line, some do them in a circle, and I would like to add that some people don't even use the typical 4-element lineup. Some might use something completely different. They might use the Chinese elements instead of the Western ones, or they might have other concepts, like they might have action, inaction, rest, and all of that sort of thing as elements. They might decide that various. One person might, for example, say that North fit more with fire for me, and all of that, and that is all good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. However, I think it's easier to get to the point where you can customize magic to fit your needs if you know the basics. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think it's right to rag on those instruction videos, because I think they are very useful. Because very often they're very beginner friendly, and they serve two very important purposes. One is to give an idea of basics, so that people can later take those basics and play around with them once they know them. And the other part is that it gives people an idea of where to start. So another thing is that there's a lot of power in symbolism, meaning that when and a lot of that power comes from so many people using that symbolism. It's the same that, for example, the smiley has power today, because so many people use a smiley every day. It means I'm happy, I'm pleased, I like this. So that basically inscribing a smiley into a candle actually is quite useful. And therefore, these symbolisms that have been around for so long, when they are used in an altar setup, they give their own energy to it. And of course you can go your own way, but then at the risk of losing access to that, which might be just the thing you need to give your spells a little bit of oomph. So that knowing these symbols can be very useful. It's like my teacher also said, that of course you can invent the wheel all over again with your magic, but sometimes it's useful to just do what others have done before you. So that I think it's very good to be individualistic with magic. I think it's very good to customize a magic system to fit your needs. I am very much for that, but I also think one shouldn't scoff at the idea of using set dogma, if you will, and more traditional approaches, because I think that can be very useful. So I am very much for altar setup videos. Now for me, I very often just use a basic altar setup. I very seldom just change my altar for various seasons and so on. I have a general setup, a work area, and I just go with that. It might be because I'm lazy, it might be because I work with so many systems that I just don't have room in my house to have altars set up for all of them. When my ritual room is complete, I'm going to have 3 main altars there. One of them is going to be Egyptian themed, and one is going to be my main religious altar, and the third one is just going to be a work area where I sort of, if I want to have a spell box sitting up, I can have that. If basically whatever spells and rituals I'm working on at the moment, it can stay there. I'm also having a smaller, basically a portable altar, which is basically this chest that can be carried around, so that if I want to be able to, for example, dance around the altar, I can take that with me, put it in the middle of the living room and dance around that. I also currently have a living room altar, which has a very basic setup. I have a video on it and so on. So for me, the setup isn't very important, so I might not be the right person to comment on this. But at the same time, when I was a complete beginner, I used a tutorial on it, though I found the tutorial in a book. Basically, this is how you put up an altar. I followed that. Now that I've been practicing for quite some time, I do the altar however I feel like. And I mean, an altar can be anything. Like, in a way, I have an altar on my hanging from my phone. You see, these are my phone charms. And in a way, this is an altar, because I have here a miniature rosary with a cross, which symbolizes the masculine. We have Jesus here, which is a god. So he symbolizes the god. And I have a little good luck anime girl that symbolizes the goddess. And I have this organ point that has basically the function of symbolizing the one, and it also protects me from the radiation of the phone. It works as a miniature wand and as a focus point. And I have this basically yin-yang sticker here that basically becomes my altar tile. So that if I am somewhere and I want to set up an altar, I can just put my phone down there and I sort of have an altar with me. So this is an altar. So basically, and that's kind of alternative thinking. But when I first started out, I had the goddess on the left side, I had the god on the right side, and that helped me get going. And basically, I think that many people need that. Basically, a very traditional, simple, straight to the point, basic starting point. So, you seem to be quite experienced. So for you, it isn't a problem just jumping in it, arranging an altar however you please. However, if you look at it from a start beginner who might have read one book on magic, who might even not have done that, just watch some YouTube videos or read something here and then, want to start their first altar, then it can be very useful for them to have a tutorial video on how to set it up. That doesn't mean that they will be bound to that way of setting it up forever. It means that they'll have a place to start. So yeah, I'm against those videos that say this is the only way to do it. If you don't have the atame at the same place on the altar as I do, then sorry, you're not a real witch. I'm against that. But having a tutorial video on how to put up altars, I think that's a good idea. For yeah, while I do agree, magic is individual, there are no real rules for how to do it. I mean, I've used Transformers figures in magic. You can do whatever you want. Most people need a basic starting point. And we were all beginners once that needed these things. And I think it's much easier to get started with that. It's like let's say you want to start reading books in a new genre. Let's say fantasy. And you walk into a bookstore and see all those books. And it's so easy then to get overwhelmed. But if you have looked up on the internet and seen, okay, these are very popular series, basically you'll be a well-read fantasy fan if you read these, then you have a starting point. Now you might end up not liking those books that are the most popular. You might end up having other favorites, and of course you should choose the books you read yourself. But finding those lists can be a very good way to get started, and basically that's what tutorial videos are. They are ways to get started. So basically, on the level of magic can be whatever you want it to be, and there are no hard or fast rules, you have to make the rules for yourself. I agree with you 110%. However, at the same time, I think it is very useful to have basically tutorials as a starting point, and there's nothing wrong with learning the basics. I mean, when I know what direction is traditionally associated with elements, and then learn why they are traditionally associated with such elements, then it's much more easy for me then to make my own system around it than if I don't know anything. And basically, as a chaot and someone who is very eclectic with magic, I experiment all the time. I pick and choose how I want to do, what sort of things I want to be a part of my practice. However, I don't think I would have been as good at picking and choosing, as good at making my own system, if I hadn't had the basic knowledge that I do. So I don't think that one should smirk at basic knowledge. And that's basically what tutorials do. They give you basic knowledge. And of course, just like I say, read lots of books to get a lot of different authors' opinions. Watch a lot of videos so you get different people's opinions on how to put up an altar. You don't just follow one slavically. Slavishly, is that the right word? Yeah, slavishly, I think it is. Basically, but I think tutorials on these things are a good idea. So yeah, that was just my opinions. I really liked the video, and I think you have a very interesting channel with a lot of good videos on it. So again, have a great Beltane, have a great 1st of May, and blessed be.